worst birthday, and I'm pretty sure no one can top this. At the time, I was turning 25. I didn't want to do a big birthday party, so I did a small get-together. I held the mini get-together at my place, and it was around 10 to 15 of us. My friends and some of my boyfriend's friends all came. So as the party's starting, of course, we're taking shots, and my friend told me that she didn't want to drink. And I was like, why, you're pregnant or something? But I was joking. And she was like, I think so. I was like, by who? And she said that she did not know. She didn't know whether or not if she was pregnant, but she didn't want to be sick at the party, so she didn't drink. So everyone starts coming in, we're all having a good time. And she says she starts to feel lightheaded and she really didn't feel good. So I told her, to go inside of my room, lay down until she feels better. And she took some water and went to my room, which was the first mistake, which I'll get into in part 2. Part 2 of the worst birthday. So like I said, she was feeling sick and I sent her to my room. So as time goes on, I check on her just to make sure she's fine. But every time I looked, she was asleep. By the time the party was over, everybody passed out at my place. It was like a huge sleepover. So it had to be approximately 4:30 a.m. I wake up feeling a little nauseous. And when I got up and looked around, I didn't see my boyfriend. Unconsciously, I wasn't really thinking too much about him. I was just looking to get to the bathroom. Now my bathroom is connected to my room. So I walked through my bedroom to get to my bathroom. And remember, like I told y'all, I left my friend in my bed because she was feeling sick. Because she was possibly pregnant. When I got done in the bathroom, I went back in the room to check on her. But when I looked at the bed, it looked like it had 2 bodies. And I'm like, who's in the bed? Because I didn't say anybody else could sleep in there. When I removed the covers, my best friend and boyfriend were naked in my bed. I'm back by popular demands. Part 3 of the worst birthday ever. After catching both my boyfriend and best friend in my bed, I was so shocked and we got into this huge altercation. My best friend ran into the bathroom and locked herself in. I was manhandling my boyfriend. Also, by the way, during this entire time, he was still naked. While we were going back and forth, my other best friends, of course, heard what was going on because we were so loud and so much happened that I don't even remember because I seriously blacked out. And I went crazy. One of my friends had to take me out. Literally, I had waited outside of my own apartment so my best friend and boyfriend can get their things and go. Even though my friends were trying to separate us and solve the situation, they were still going back and forth with him. Mind you, they still don't even know what's really going on. And one of my other friends started fighting him. Just so much craziness happened. Some of the stuff I'm embarrassed to say, but you're not gonna believe what I found out after kicking him out. Okay, so I know you guys really want part 4, so I'm back by popular demand. Part 4 of the worst birthday. So after the whole situation happened, of course, I broke up with my boyfriend, now ex, and I completely cut off my best friend. And as some of you guys already guessed, she was pregnant with his baby. And I didn't find out through my ex-best friend or my ex-boyfriend. I found out through one of my other friends, but she didn't keep the baby. She ended up getting a A-word. But both her and him still ended up staying together. I honestly think their whole situation is weird. And all my friends cut her off, except for one because they were cousins, which is like how I knew what was going on. And by the way, I wasn't upset over losing my relationship. I was upset about losing my best friend. Because at some point, I knew our relationship was going to end because he has cheated before. And I went back like a dummy, but I kind of should have expected it. But I was really disappointed about my friend because we've been friends since kindergarten.
My husband, Jesse, 31, has been bringing home meals that his female coworker, Nellie, cooks for him. Now, I'm not the best cook, and Jesse's made it clear, but he still eats what I cook every day. What I noticed with Nellie was that she tends to take every opportunity to point out how weak and tasteless my cooking is. Jesse would say nothing except steer the conversation towards something else they both relate to while I'm sitting there wallowing in my misery thinking about what she just said. Also, she once asked what was another chore I was good at, and Jesse said ironing his suits. She, in response, joked about having him send her a suit of his so he could see how good she is at ironing too. I rolled my eyes hard, but at least Jesse agreed that was weird. Last week, Jesse came home with a new meal she cooked. I told him I already cooked dinner and asked what he was going to do with the meal. He told me he was going to eat it for dinner. Not gonna lie, I was getting a bit irritated and he must have noticed because he said that he promised Nellie he'd eat it for dinner and that she asked him to take a pic of the empty plate later to confirm that he'd actually eaten it. I was baffled. Like, completely baffled at this. I told him one thing and one thing only. Told him that if he chose to eat Nelly's meal over the dinner that I cooked, then this would be the last time that I cook for him. He started moaning about how I was being unfair and putting him in a rough place. He stalled and didn't give a clear answer until I saw him walk past me later when I set the table and prepared for dinner. That's when he put her meal in the microwave. I felt so awful, I almost cried. I then told him from now on I won't cook for him anymore since he made his choice. I obviously pissed him off because he went off on me calling me childish and pathetic to make this about my ego. I got up from my chair and told him that I owed him nothing and that he made his decision and so did I. He snapped and said that this was ridiculous and that Nelly was just doing a nice thing for him while my behavior was disgraceful and disgusting. He then went into the bedroom and I rushed after him, but he shouted, "Leave me the fuck alone." He then proceeded to shut the door and hasn't been speaking to me after that. His mom knew about the argument and called begging me to be more patient and not make any decisions I might regret later. She agreed that Nelly was overstepping and firmly believes that she's the problem and so I shouldn't be hard on her son. But my mother-in-law is incredibly biased, meaning in her eyes, her son is the saint who can do no wrong. So that's that. I feel like I overreacted and really messed it up by pushing him like that. Am I the asshole for telling my husband that I won't cook for him again if he chose to eat his coworker's meal over mine? I have a friend named Paul that has been my 26 roommate for a little over a year now. We've been good friends since college and we've also maintained our friend group from college as well. Recently, I started to notice something odd. My underwear has been frequently disappearing and reappearing in my drawer. At first, I didn't notice anything, but occasionally I would notice that some pairs that were supposed to be clean had a strange smell. I started to get really suspicious after a while, especially after I brought it up to Paul and he just shrugged me off at first, but I started getting really weird vibes after some arguing back and forth, and Paul finally admitted very reluctantly to the truth. Apparently, Paul has been stealing my underwear, wearing them, and putting them back in the drawer, with what I'm assuming is the hope that I end up wearing them too. When I found this out, my skin crawled. I'm honestly a very open-minded person and I wouldn't have a problem with Paul wearing women's underwear if they weren't mine, and he also confessed that he had been doing it for months. I felt so violated by this and I told him that he would have to leave immediately. Luckily, he agreed and left that night and has been crashing on a work friend's couch while he looks for a new place. He said that he was really embarrassed and understood why I was no longer comfortable being friends with him. The only thing that he requested was I not tell our mutual friends. But I couldn't not tell him, considering they were all wondering why Paul had to leave so suddenly and why we weren't friends anymore. They knew something had gone down, and when they asked, I just told them because I honestly needed support about the whole thing, and I also knew there was no way I would be able to keep hanging out in the group if Paul was going to be there. Everyone was really shocked and understood my decision. Paul confronted me over text about it, telling me that I was wrong to share his kink with the whole group and that it was his private information. But I told him that I was allowed to tell my friends about how his actions affected me, considering he went against my privacy and violated not only my trust but also my person. Am I the asshole for telling my friend group about another friend's kink so they would also stop being friends with him? I, 46 male, married to a wonderful wife, 33, and we have a young family together, 11, 9, and 3. My wife and I have both had rough lives filled with all kinds of hardships, and our home and family is our pride and purpose. Recently, but unbeknownst to her, it's come under threat. I'll explain as matter-of-factly as possible. Over 20 years ago, in another life, I was a completely different person. I was in circles I shouldn't have been and doing things no one has any business of doing. My wife knows a few details, but has allowed me to leave the past in the past as I've done for her. Anyway, in that former life, I was briefly involved with a young woman a couple years younger than me. She became pregnant. Neither of us were ready to be parents, so I offered her a choice. She made the wrong decision and we haven't spoken since. I don't know how he, 17, learned who I am or how to reach me, but it did. There was a meeting this Monday. I was informed that the young woman I had been involved with was no longer with us after running a battle with oral cancer. I extended my condolences but made it clear that I have a family now which I love very much and can't allow to be disturbed. The meeting predictably went south from there with more venom than I'm proud to admit on both sides. I left and assumed that that would be the end of things. I was wrong. My sister-in-law, 30, contacted me yesterday morning and informed me that my bastard had somehow found her and made its existence known. There was a fight that ended in an ultimatum. Either I tell my wife the full story of this girl and what came of it in the next 3 days, or she's gonna go behind my back. I unblocked its social media account to tell it to leave my family alone. I've since heard about this as well. All I want to do is protect my marriage and my children, and I cannot afford a stupid mistake from my past coming to destroy everything I've worked so hard to build. All it had to do was build its own life and stop worrying about the past. Am I the asshole for protecting my family from a youthful mistake? So my older sister has 3 kids, twin 2-year-olds and an 8-month-old. She's very irresponsible, so my mom takes care of her babies most of the time. Me and my sister are not that close, but she's always touching my clothes and makeup, and it's really annoying since I'm 17 and work a job to pay for all my things while she's unemployed and borrows money from my mom and sometimes me. She also dates a lot, and I honestly don't care. That's her business. I don't ask her about her dating life, and she doesn't ask me about mine. I came home last night to my room torn apart, and a lot of my makeup and extensions were just gone. I was so mad. I called her a bunch of times, and finally someone answered. It was some guy, and I told him to give the phone to my sister. He said she's busy and can't talk right now, and what the fuck do I want? I said that I need to talk to her, and he said that he can relay a message. I said to tell her to bring back my things the same way that she took them, and that I'm not babysitting her kids next weekend like she begged me to. He was like, wait, what? But I hung up. 30 minutes later, my mom comes into my room saying that my sister called her crying hysterically that she was kicked out of some guy's car on the road and needed a ride home, and she was blaming me, saying I exposed her. I was so confused until she came home trying to come after me, and I locked my room door. She was screaming that I told her now ex that she has kids, which isn't my business to tell, which got him mad. She said what I did was child endangerment because you shouldn't mention kids to strangers, and that she decides to tell people on her own time. My mom is on her side saying that there was no need to mention kids if my sister didn't feel comfortable, but my dad is saying that she was wrong and overreacting. So, am I the asshole for telling my sister's new boyfriend that she has kids?